Mom laughed, lifting her glass like she was toasting a joke I didn't understand. "Your brother earned everything himself," she said. "Eyes on me, unlike you." The table went still. Dad's hand froze over the salad bowl. I leaned back, feeling something sharp settle in my chest, and said quietly, "Then I'll stop sending you money." The color drained from her face. "What money?" In that silence, the house finally told the truth. It had been hiding for years. That was the night I stopped being the quiet one. Before I tell you how everything unraveled after that, tell me where you're listening from so I know I'm not the only one who's had to draw the line. From the outside, we looked like a family worth envying. Sunday dinners, framed smiles, matching sweaters on holiday cards. But perfection is easier to print than to live. My name's Victoria Frost. I'm 32, the quiet daughter, the one who learned early that keeping peace sometimes meant swallowing your own voice. Max, my older brother by 2 years, was the golden one. Teachers adored him, neighbors bragged about him, and my parents treated his success like a shared inheritance. My mom, Irene, ran our house the way she ran her small boutique. Every opinion had to pass through her. Dad, gentle but exhausted, spent years translating her pride into apologies no one asked for. When the recession hit, their mortgage slipped behind. I had just started my job at a design studio, barely steady myself, but I told Dad I'd help until they caught up. $4,500 a month. Quietly, responsibly. Mom refused to use online banking. She didn't trust screens with her money, so I wired everything to Max's account. He promised to deliver it in cash or check, said it made things easier. I believed him because believing him was what we all did. Over time, those transfers became routine, like paying a bill for peace. Each month, I sent the money and waited for a thank you that never came. When Mom mentioned the mortgage being under control, I felt a small warmth thinking I'd helped. Max would send an occasional text. Handled, and that was it. Still, something always felt off. The last time I visited, the house looked more tired than before. Paint peeling, the fridge humming too loudly. Dad smiled through it the way he always did. "Max is helping us manage things," he said. I wanted to believe it. I really did. That night, while Mom turned up the volume on the evening news and Max scrolled through his phone, I sat at the same table I'd grown up at, staring at the family photo framed above the fireplace. 4 smiles, 1 truth missing. If I'd looked closer, maybe I'd have seen what was coming. The cracks already running through our perfect picture. Dinner that night felt like everyone before it, too polite to be real. The table was set with the good plates that only came out on holidays. Dad's garlic roast filled the air, the same scent I'd loved as a kid, back when the silences hadn't yet learned how to bruise. Mom poured herself another glass of wine, looked around the table like a woman inspecting a stage, and then smiled in Max's direction. "Your brother really figured it out," she said proudly. "He's got instinct, ambition." She looked at me when she said it, but the smile wasn't for me. I felt it like a splinter under the skin, familiar, sharp, impossible to ignore. "I'm happy for him," I said, the way I'd said it my whole life. Dad nodded absently, reaching for the roasted vegetables. His hand trembled a little. Mom chuckled, adding, "All on his own, too, no handouts." The air changed. The clink of her glass against the table sounded louder than it should have. I could have smiled and let it go the way I always did. Instead, I leaned back in my chair and heard my own voice, low but clear. "Then I'll stop sending you money." The room froze. Even the hum of the refrigerator seemed to pause. Dad's fork hung midair. Max's knife slipped and hit his plate with a dull scrape. Mom blinked once, twice before her expression broke. "What money?" she asked. Her tone wasn't angry. It was confused. Sincere, that was the worst part. I met her eyes. "The $4,500 I've been wiring to Max every month for you and Dad since last March." She frowned. "You've been what?" Dad looked at Max, his face draining of color. Max straightened in his chair, his voice brittle. "She's exaggerating. There were delays. Some months she sent it late." "Every month," I interrupted quietly. "The first of each one, I have the confirmations." The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was surgical. It cut. Mom turned to Max again. "We never saw a cent." Max's jaw tightened. "You don't understand. There were expenses, investments." "What kind of investment costs $54,000 and leaves you with nothing to show?" I asked. His eyes flashed. "You wouldn't get it, Victoria. You never believe in anything unless it's safe." Believing in family shouldn't be unsafe, I said. Dad's eyes filled, his voice trembling. Max, is it true? Max looked away. It's complicated. The steam from the food had gone cold. I stood up, pushing my chair back slowly. Then I guess it's his problem now. Mom's hand gripped the edge of the table. She looked at Max again, but he wouldn't meet her eyes. And in that single breath between truth and denial, I knew the house had just changed forever. That night, the house stayed awake. Every wall seemed to breathe with us, restless and heavy. I lay in my old room, staring at the ceiling, tracing the faint glow of the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck there when I was 15. Down the hall, voices murmured. Dad crying softly, Mom packing. Max's door stayed shut. I turned on my lamp and opened my laptop. The habit was automatic now. Check the payments, the transfers, the statements. Each line stared back at me like an accusation. $4,500 on the first of every month. My own digital fingerprints on a crime I hadn't meant to commit. $54,000 in total gone. The next morning, Mom sat at the kitchen table with her head in her hands. Dad stood by the window, still in his robe, coffee gone cold. He says it's tied up in something, Dad whispered. A venture? A venture doesn't eat mortgage payments, I said. It eats trust. Mom's jaw flexed, eyes red. We'll talk to him when he wakes up. But Max didn't wake up. He was already gone. His car missing from the driveway, his room empty except for a cologne cloud that lingered like a lie. A single sticky note sat on his dresser. Don't overreact, I'll fix it. I stared at the words until they blurred. He's not fixing anything, I said. He's running. Dad began to cry again, small, broken sounds. Mom grabbed her coat, muttering something about finding him. I caught her arm. Wait, you can't chase him without proof. Let me handle this. She looked at me like she didn't know whether to trust me or herself. Then she nodded once. That day, I did what Max never expected. I worked the problem like a blueprint. I started with the structure. Every transaction, every date, every message. Then the weak points where the money changed hands. Each transfer confirmed Max's account every time. Ethan came over that evening, my laptop glowing between us. You're digging deep, he said quietly. I have to, I replied. This isn't just about the money, it's about how long he thought he could lie to me and get away with it. He nodded. What's your next step? The bank, I said, and then a lawyer. At the branch, the manager frowned as she looked through the records. These were all redirected, she said, pointing to Max's name. Account holder used the funds for private transfers. Looks like another intermediary. To who? I asked. She hesitated. A woman named Sienna Blake. I felt something inside me lock into place. A name, a direction, a trail. When I walked out of that bank, the cold February air hit my face like a vow. I pulled my coat tighter and whispered to myself, You wanted to play with trust, Max. Fine. Let's see how much truth costs. 3 nights later, the doorbell rang just after sunrise. I was in the kitchen with Dad, both of us running on little sleep and too much quiet. Mom was still upstairs, sorting through papers she no longer trusted. When I opened the door, a woman stood on the porch, leather jacket, designer sunglasses, the kind of smile people practice in the mirror. Morning, she said easily. You must be Victoria, I'm Sienna. The name landed like a stone. Max is Sienna, she chuckled. I guess you could call me that. Behind me, I heard Mom's footsteps, slow but heavy. She came to stand beside me, her voice low. What are you doing here? Sienna held up a small folder like a peace offering. Just clearing up a misunderstanding. Max asked me to drop these off, proof of our venture. Dad appeared in the doorway, pale and trembling. Venture? Sienna flashed her grin again. Tech startup. We're building a platform connecting freelance creatives with global clients. Scalable, forward-thinking, you know how it is. I stepped aside. Show us. She entered like she owned the place, spreading out glossy printouts across the table. Mock-ups, fake charts, random buzzwords. Phase 2, projected growth, alpha testing. Not a single number added up. Mom flipped through the pages, face tightening with each turn. This is nonsense, she said. Sienna's smile faltered. Every big thing starts small. $54,000 small, I shot back. She looked at me, still pretending calm. You've been talking to Max. No, I said. I've been talking to the bank. The air shifted. Dad clutched the back of a chair. Mom's breathing grew rough. Sienna leaned on the counter, casual again, but her eyes were sharp. "You don't understand," she said. "He wanted this. He believed in me." "And you let him believe," I said, "because it paid your rent." Before she could answer, the sound of tires crunching on gravel filled the silence. I turned to the window. Max's black sedan pulled into the driveway. He stepped out, baseball cap on, though the sun was barely up. The door opened and there he was. Hair perfect, jacket too expensive, smile practiced. When he saw Sienna, his expression cracked. "What are you doing here?" Sienna's voice softened instantly. "Babe, I told you I'd fix it." His jaw tightened. "You weren't supposed to come here." Mom's voice was quiet but deadly. "You took your sister's money, you lied to us." Max's eyes flicked between us. "It's not what you think." "Then explain it," I said. "Because $54,000 disappeared, the mortgage fell behind, and somehow she's wearing a Rolex." He looked at Sienna. "You said we'd triple it in a year." Her shrug was careless. "Plans change." "Plans?" Dad's fist hit the table so hard the glasses rattled. "You stole from your own family." Max flinched, but still clung to the illusion. "It's not stealing if it's an investment. We just needed time." Dad's voice broke. "We skipped our payments because we trusted you." The silence afterward was the kind that swallows sound. I took a step closer to Sienna. "So what's your real job?" She smirked. "I'm an entrepreneur." "Funny," I said. "Your last company owes 3 employees back wages." Her face twitched. Max turned toward me, shocked. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the messages, the man with the lawsuit who'd emailed me yesterday. "He's been looking for you, Sienna, for her." Max's hand went to his mouth. "You lied to me." She sighed like a woman tired of drama. "I didn't lie, I just didn't tell you everything." "That's the same thing," I said. Mom moved around the table, standing toe-to-toe with her. "You're leaving this house now." Sienna's smile vanished completely. "You can't stop him from seeing me, he's an adult." Max's voice was shaking. "I'm not going anywhere with you." She reached for his arm and instinct kicked in. I stepped between them. "Don't touch him." The sound of sirens grew louder outside. Sienna froze, eyes narrowing. "What did you do?" "Just returning the favor," I said. "I called the police an hour ago. They're very interested in where the money went." She backed toward the door as flashing lights painted the walls red and blue. 2 officers entered. "Sienna Blake," one asked. Sienna tried to laugh. "This is a mistake." But her voice broke when they cuffed her. Max sank into a chair, his entire body shaking. Mom leaned against the counter, pale and silent. Dad cried into his hands. As they led Sienna out, she turned to me, her voice a whisper meant to cut. "You think you've won. There's always another version of me out there." I met her eyes. "Then I hope he finds someone like me, too." The door shut behind her. The house exhaled for the first time in months. 2 weeks later, the police called. They'd found evidence of multiple scams. 4 men, same story, same promises. Sienna had pleaded guilty. The prosecutor wanted Max's testimony to strengthen the case. At first, he refused. "I can't face her again," he whispered. "You already did," I told him, "and you survived it." In court, Max sat beside me. He spoke softly but clearly, describing how Sienna convinced him to invest, how she'd used my transfers as seed money. His hand shook, but his voice held steady. When Sienna tried to look at him, he didn't look back. When the verdict was read, 2 years in prison, 14 months without parole, the room went still. No applause, no celebration, just relief. Mom's hand found mine under the table. Dad sobbed quietly beside her. Max let out a breath that sounded like surrender. As the bailiff led Sienna away, her last glance was met with nothing. We walked out of that courthouse into cold, bright daylight. For the first time, it didn't sting. It felt clean. Later that night, back home, I stood in the backyard holding a small box. Photos, old receipts. A few notes she'd written. Max stood next to me, lighter in the shoulders than I'd ever seen him. "Are you sure you want to do this?" I asked. He nodded. "It doesn't mean anything now." I struck the match. The flames caught, curling through the paper, turning everything she'd touched into smoke. We watched it rise into the February sky until nothing was left but ash. Max whispered, "She took so much from me." I looked at him. "Then make sure she never gets another inch." By spring, he'd found a small job at a tech support center. Dad tended his workshop again. Mom fixed the garden fence she'd ignored for years. The silence that used to hurt now felt almost gentle. One afternoon, Max came to me with a small envelope. Inside was a photo of us as kids at the state fair, missing teeth, sticky fingers, laughing like we didn't know what betrayal meant. On the back, he'd written, "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." I didn't say anything. I just hugged him. For once, the house didn't need words to stay standing. The weeks after the trial felt strange, like the air inside the house had been rewired. Dad started leaving the curtains open again, sunlight spilling across the kitchen tiles. Mom took long walks in the morning, no longer carrying that tightness in her shoulders. And Max, he didn't try to perform anymore. No perfect hair, no expensive cologne, no excuses. Just him, quieter, humbler, still finding his footing. He found work as a tech support specialist downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but he said it felt honest. Every evening he came home with a packed lunch box and new lines on his hands, the kind that came from effort instead of guilt. Sometimes I'd catch him sitting in the workshop with Dad fixing old furniture. The same workbench Dad once used to build the dining table that started everything. One night, Mom sat beside me at the table while I went through some bills. "I think we made him this way," she said softly. "We kept calling him special until he thought he couldn't fail." I looked at her. "We all played our part, but we're fixing it now." She nodded, exhaling. "I'm proud of you, Victoria." It hit harder than I expected, maybe because it was the first time she'd said it without comparing me to anyone else. Later, Max joined us, carrying 3 mugs of tea. "We'll be okay," he said, half to himself, half to us. For the first time in years, I believed him. The house was finally quiet, but not the kind of quiet that hides pain. This was a different silence, the kind built on truth. A month later, I packed my suitcase for Portland. A new job, a new start. The morning light poured through the kitchen windows as Dad folded laundry and Mom read the paper like old times. Max walked me to the car, his hoodie sleeves pushed up, a faint smile on his face. "You're really leaving," he said. "It's time," I answered. He slipped an envelope into my hand. A photo of us as kids, holding ice cream cones, cheeks sticky with chocolate. On the back, he'd written, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to see what's worth keeping." As I drove away, I looked once in the rearview mirror. The house looked smaller, but lighter somehow. Family doesn't break you unless you let it. If this story hit close to home, share yours in the comments and subscribe for more.